Eric, hello. I am so excited to be doing these 6 episodes with you on your awesome book, Profit with Presence, The 12 Pillars of Mindful Leadership.
Well, let's get it done, Kristen. I'm excited too. This is a really important conversation.
The first thing that I'm really curious about when we talk about presence in any areas of our lives, but I think specifically when it comes to our professional life, is what's possible? Like, what is actually possible when we bring more presence to our work?
Well, I mean, I think it's possible to not look at it like it's, work is just another thing to do. That I have to go to work so then I have a life later on. Presence, I mean, it's there's a lot of words for mindfulness in that one, but when you boil it right down, it's focus. And so it's possible to shorten our work days with more focus. It's possible to get more done with less time. It's possible to form real relationships at work, not just you know, meaningless associations that we're just trying to, get something from somebody, get something done. I think bringing presence to work just extends your life, where you're alert and happy. You can be happy with what you do with presence.
Mm,
It's my
yeah.
experience for myself and so many others. It's a lot possible. I mean, you can just start. I love work.
Mm,
No, I love to work. That's why I'm doing this. It's possible to love what you do,
mm,
and it's a short life. I mean, why not?
mm. Mm. Yeah, when I expand kind of the aperture of that, I think of like clarity at work, clarity in
Oh,
the
totally.
decisions that I make. I think about confidence, right? When I'm really present to my way of being and how I'm being with people, and even where I'm nervous and anxious, like even just bringing presence to that and leaning into it and surrendering to that has me show up differently when I'm working. And that all is, it's all rooted in presence.
Well, I have, some people I talk to about this go, well, no, mindfulness, that's woo-woo, too soft, too time-consuming work. And I say, no, mindfulness or presence is focus. Woo-woo's, divided, distracted, unable to make key decisions. I mean, that's the state of the world.
Yeah.
Presence means, no, I'm focused. I'm making a difference. I'm intentional with everything I do.
Mm.
And with intention and with focus and clarity, man, you just waste so much less time and get so much more done. And you make sure it's meaningful work. It's not, I mean, as a society, we have busy down, we're all busy. So there's got to be another level, and I have found that presence brings that level.
What do you think are some of the things that we experience when we lack presence in our work? So, really, describe to me the average workplace, is really what I'm asking.
Well, I mean, living in the gap, our nonprofit describes the gap in between thoughts, where thought stops and another starts. And there's other gaps, but that's a primary gap. And I have just find that peace, joy, happiness, presence live in the gaps. Stress, anxiety, nervousness, all those things live in thought. And so many of our problems in life is what we think about something rather than what something actually is. I mean, with presence, you start looking at things and saying, okay, that's what is. That's what's going on. Can I change it? Okay. I take action, I change. If I can't change it, accept it. That brings clarity to it. We worry so much about things like the weather or, just things we can't control that those are just part of life. That's nature. If we accept those, and then we just start learning what things can I make some difference in or do something with, or accept the rest. I just think it brings a calmness and a clarity to your whole life.
Mm, yeah. What I hear you saying is without presence, we're not actually in our lives. We're
No,
we're just sort of thinking about them.
we're in our heads. I love what Ken Robin said. My body's just what something carrying my head from meeting to meeting.
Yes.
So without it, yeah, we're just like a washing machine, just another machine. But
Mm,
with presence and consciousness, humans can make a real difference for themselves and others.
Mm. What is the business case though for presence and mindfulness? Like when you meet other business leaders like yourself, they want to know, what's the ROI of this? Why would I even
Yeah.
care?
Well, I mean, Aetna did a study, 13,000 employees. They found there was, for line employees, $2,000 a year savings in healthcare costs and $3,000 increase in productivity. I work mostly with high income people, and the results that I've seen are much more than that, for productivity. But I mean, just if you boil it down to focus, then the business case business is focus. Business is all about focusing on what we do, making and figuring out what works, and stopping doing what doesn't work, and turning and making it into something that works. And so focus is all about business. And so I think the business case also is, less stress, better health, all those things is, and if you believe that business is just turning a profit, I believe it's bigger than that. I believe business is also there to make, the community better if it can. Obviously, you have to make a profit, or you won't stay in business. But you also have the option of, improving things of your employees' lives, improving the community, all those things. I think that's long-term business success rather than just a short-term profit. I think you can do both.
Well, and would you even go far to say that profit increases with presence? And have you experienced that in your own business, in your own professional life?
I have, with less time, more focus, less waste. Also, much easier to make a decision to let something go, or division, something like that. Making clearer decisions about that. Absolutely, I've experienced that. And I would also say, even if it wasn't, it was a little less, and I thought I was making a difference, and I was having less stress, and had employees that were healthier, and the community was better, and I wasn't, I was helping things versus hurting things. I'd rather make a little less money, because but I have to make enough. I get that. I'm not at the crossroads of saying, let's go adopt mindfulness and throw capitalism out. I love capitalism. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You have a phrase in your book that when I read it was just like underline and circle, and it's called spiritual cross training. And that's a big part of what you're talking about here. Will you describe that and kind of define that?
well, and I'll describe a little where it comes from. Where I came up with it is, I came at this, I read a lot of the Eastern texts, and I was stuck for a long time, just in that it was talking about having to renounce all my possessions and go sit on a hill somewhere, and from my next level of whatever I was getting. And I was stuck there mostly because I wasn't willing to do that. And also, I found that most of my friends, and I'm not a Buddhist, most of my friends are Christians. And I've noticed a lot of people have resistance. I mean, most of the meditation practices come out of the Eastern traditions. Mindfulness, most of it comes out of there. And I've just found some resistance to some that say, oh, geez, don't get at my religion. And there's nothing in meditation that's about religion. I just find whatever I say spiritual cross training, because whatever it takes to have me be more present. I've also found that people that do these practices often get deeper into their faith. I've seen Christians just start going to church that hadn't gone. They rekindles the spirituality, and they say, oh, that's where I can plug in. I get it again. I'm going. So spiritual cross training it also means, the teachings aren't, and the tools aren't the goals. It's presence that's the goal. Whatever it takes to have you be more present, more awake, more alive in your life, then let them go. They don't mean anything. The book Profit with Presence doesn't mean anything in its own right, unless it makes a difference for you.
Mm. Yeah, what I took away from it as well is seeing multiple arenas of my life as opportunities to expand my presence. So For example, yes, I can dedicate 20 minutes in the morning and I can sit there and I can do my quote unquote meditation. But when I was reading your book, I started to see how I could actually bring that real deliberate presence, which is what we're doing with meditation, to every part of my life. While
Mhm.
I'm watering my garden, while I'm going for a run, while I'm driving the car, that I don't have to have these quote unquote meditation moments. That part of spiritual cross training is seeing like, oh, wow, I can infuse that level of sacredness and presence
Right.
into everything that I'm doing.
Love that. And furthermore, I mean, we don't really meditate for the meditation that period of time. We meditate so that it filters through the rest of our life. So when we're feeling stress, and then all of a sudden I just feel myself in my body and breathing, that I can respond rather than react. I mean, I'm training myself. Those periods in time are training yourself, like when you're training a horse or training a dog or training for, the sport or whatever. It's not the training time. It's so that when you get into game time in our life, we have those tools. And we have a deep tool bag and a bigger perspective.
We had a conversation recently about some of the graduates that had just recently finished
Yeah.
your mindful leadership program, and we didn't have a chance to get too into it. But I was so curious about what is possible for, like, what do leaders gain when they deliberately train in presence, in mindfulness, in focus, as you say, and like sort of speaking generically, but also like specifically because you've worked with these leaders
Yeah.
for months at a time and they tell you, oh my gosh, this is what I got from it. So what did they say?
I think the biggest thing people get, Harvard just completed a study, a 70-year-long study, 700 participants, and found the number one ingredient to happiness was long-term relationships. I think they really get the difference between superficial introductions and really connecting with another human being, whether that be it, and really seeing the people at work as people,
Mm,
just like we are, that have real concerns, real things going on in their life and deserving of anything that any of us are, and with their families, deeper connection. And it's not like, in my experience, that you're connected in one element and then you turn it off on the other. Differently, typically, if you're disconnected, you're walking around disconnected, and you may have skills that allow you to succeed in society and in business and all those other things, but it just really enriches their experience of being alive. And a
mm,
lot of what we want is connection with other human beings. And that's not like anti-business. I have found through being given COVID, including COVID, five major downturns. Relationships have been the number one thing that has gotten me through every single one.
mm,
Relationships, people don't return your call when it's not going well if you don't know them. If you don't have a relationship, you just don't get that. They just sit there. And I'm not talking about using relationships. I'm talking about legitimate people. They get calls because they like you and you like them and they trust you. They know you like you and trust you, and you get calls back and things just happen,
mm,
through that really help in business. That they're just tremendous attributes. And you can really view people that you work with as extended family. A lot of people are worried about that. Say, I may have to relay them off someday. I don't want to get too close. And I say, well, I can still do that. I'm sorry. I mean, I'll do it compassionately, but it's still business. I mean, the business has to run. So
mm.
I don't find that to be, I mean, I think that's a cop out.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up because that was the thing that I was really getting curious about as you spoke is that, yes, I can see the value in having authentic relationships with people. Like I see that all the time in companies that I interact with that have a really great culture. Like there's an authenticity, there's a genuineness, there's a real care for each other that spills over into how they
Mhm.
interact with their customers and with their clients. And so I can definitely see the business case for bringing more presence to your relationships, specifically at work.
Mhm.
But I can also hear this kind of pushback of like, but the closer I get to these people, the harder it is for me to make decisions. The harder it will be for me to make hard decisions, especially that would affect their livelihood. Can you just share just a little bit more about that, about how we
Well,
shouldn't be
sure.
afraid of the tough decisions, while, why we should still lean in?
Well, I would say I'll take it to the personal level first and then come back to it. Is I was told not to be friends with my kids. I'm sure glad I didn't listen to that one. I can still discipline my child and put them in timeout and, you know, make sure that they don't watch too much TV and those kind of things and still have a friendship with them, a genuine caring and a friendship and still put down the rules. And at work too. I mean, in the other part of it is just, take mindfulness lets you take the emotion out of it and realize that it's not necessarily an emotional decision that I'll feel bad because I have to let somebody go. I'll feel bad. I still would be able to do it. That's leadership. I still
Mm,
would be able to say this is, just got to happen. And I'm sorry, and here's some severance or whatever it is, but it's got to happen. So, I mean, I'm not going to go through my whole life worrying what's going to happen. That I might have to make this decision sometime. I would rather enjoy my day, enjoy presence, enjoy the people, be real, do those kind of things. And if I have to take a tough decision, that's called leadership.
mm,
Step into it.
yeah,
And if somebody is upset about that, that's okay. I do what I have to do.
mm,
Um, it's the same thing like with compassion, right? Compassion was a very difficult skill to develop for me. And so many business people say that's just enabling and weak. You're just going to make people, weak. I don't think you have to solve every issue by being compassionate. It just means you're aware of it, you care,
mm,
and you do what you can. But it doesn't mean you have to go out and, solve every single issue.
mm,
Compassion is natural outpouring of being conscious. Makes because you're connected with people makes you compassionate. Most people that are not compassionate are not connected, in my experience.
yeah. It's really interesting because the book Profit with Presence: The 12 Pillars of Mindful Leadership it doesn't shy away from the idea that our work requires leadership. It requires us to make decisions, to show up in a certain way, to have vision, to guide people, to gather people, to rally the troops, all those things. But what we're talking about here and what we're going to be talking about in this mini series is mindful leadership through presence, and how that sort of mode of travel changes the results that you get just by the way that you
Mm-hmm.
show up to the people that you are there to
Yeah.
collaborate with and to work with.
Yeah, it's not called weak leadership.
Mm-mm.
It's
No.
just mindful.
Yeah.
Being aware of what we're doing and all the outcomes, that might happen from our actions. Being
Mhm.
responsible for them. But it means taking action,
Mhm.
not taking action. And it also means not being afraid to be in relationship with somebody, to actually care about them. It's genuine.
Mm. Yeah. Well, and it's also at the core of who we are as human beings. Like, it's how we were designed. It's in our infrastructure, like there's really I mean, we could bypass it, but we know the results of that aren't good for us. It's our most authentic way of being is to connect with each other.
It's the difference in being transactional and being relational.
Mm.
Sure, we still have to do some transactional things, sure. And those require less presence than relational things. But relational activities are where we get the big rewards.
Mm.
That's where we get rewards of happiness and peace and joy from those kind of things. I mean, and everyone can think of it as huge success. Maybe they had some time they were all by themselves. They're going, oh God, that was empty.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love this conversation. Well, we're going to be here for 6 episodes in total, which is awesome. But before we close out for today, I wanted to just ask you, like, what's your hope for this mini series, or said another way, like, what's your intention for our time together?
My intention is to change the business conversation, to make it more impactful and to have business people really to recognize how much power they really have. A business moves the world, and it would be so much more powerful if more were moving the world mindfully, in a good direction that was enriching to society. And a lot of people are, and I'm not saying they're not, but even just to have that mindset and that intention, I think can just change your life.
Mm, I love
And
it.
employees want to work for people that are making a difference. They do. They want to feel like they want to feel like they're being treated right and being treated fairly, and all those things. And that's part of it.
I love it. Well, next episode, we're going to be talking about presence, and also we're going to be talking about purpose. So I will see you there. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you, Kristen.